Look, I like quick energy boost as much as the next guy, but when you're looking at energy drinks, there's like 1,000,001 different ingredients, and you have to understand which ones are gonna break a fast and which ones aren't. So let's hop into the store, take a look at the energy drink section, and that way I can show you, here's what you look for, and here's what you should avoid, and here's what's good to go. Let's go. Oh yeah, this is a nice one. Oh man. All right, let's go find the energy drinks. Hey, there's nobody here too. This is amazing. All right, so just to give you some context to the things you might want to be looking at. A lot of times energy drinks contain branched chain amino acids. Okay, now, although that has very legitimate merit when it comes down to preserving muscle during a workout, things like that, because the branched chain amino acid known as leucine is very protein sparing and muscle sparing, you run into an issue when you're fasting because that leucine activates an mTOR response, and what that means is it actually negates some of the autophagy cellular recycling benefits of a fast. So although it's fortunate from a workout side, from a fasting side, I would dissuade you from consuming anything that contains branched chain amino acids. So a lot of times they'll label it right up top, but you a lot of times also have to look a little bit into the label. And what you want to look for is that guy right there. It says L-leucine, okay? So that's going to be the issue that we face here. So would this be okay if you were just on a relatively low calorie diet? Yeah, but if you're fasting, it's not what you'd want to consume because of that leucine. And it looks like, so this is Rain brand, but let's say that this one, see, still says BCAAs. Let's look at some of the Bang here really quick, because this is a popular one. I understand because it tastes delicious. This is see this one says essential amino acid aminos. Now, with that being said, essential amino acids are even better than BCAAs when it comes down to muscle. Okay, so all fasting aside, there's a huge benefit there, but we don't want the essential amino acids. Why? Because if we look really carefully again, there's that sucker L-leucine, okay? So that is spiking that mTOR response. mTOR is where your body is in building phase. The opposite of mTOR is going to be AMPK, or autophagy in this case, and that's going to be what we're after with fasting. We want our body to have a signal that we're in a deficit, not a signal that we are building. It doesn't make sense to be building during your actual fast, right? So just be careful. You can abbreviate that a lot. Now let's look at some other things. Maybe, I don't want to go call out any specific brands. I'm just trying to find things that I can point out. So here's another one. And you know what, let's take a look at Monster, because Monster is pretty straightforward. So you have a Monster Energy. Okay, in this case, Zero Ultra, which would totally be fasting friendly when you look at it on the surface. But we have to look through the ingredients, which is pretty hard to read here on the camera because it's reflective. But let's see. Erythritol is going to be okay, technically not going to break a fast. I don't know if I'd really want to have that, but then we have carnitine, that's going to be fine. We have sucralose, calcium, acesulfame, potassium. Okay, so that's what we have to watch out for. So let me explain a little something here. Sucralose, as much as you may or may not like it, I don't care, put that aside for a minute. Sucralose isn't really going to break a fast because sucralose doesn't have any metabolic effect. Say what you want about being healthy, unhealthy, good for you, bad for your microbiome, whatever, okay? Say whatever you want there. The fact is, as far as metabolically, it does not break a fast. There is very little cephalic insulin response. But a lot of times, to round out the flavor, what companies will do is they'll also add something called acesulfame potassium. Acesulfame potassium is so incredibly sweet that it triggers your pancreas to produce insulin as though you were actually consuming carbohydrates. Insulin will turn off ketogenesis. Insulin will turn off the effects of a fast. Now, the question comes, will acesulfame potassium in small amounts break the fast? I mean, look at it. It's still not going to be any calories, so I think if you're just weaning yourself into a fasting lifestyle, it's fine. But I really would caution against it because it's so hyper sweet and the effect that it can have. So sucralose, although I don't really care for the stuff, I think that it's going to be okay fasting. You just have to look further down the label and see what else is added into it. It's very, very important you pay attention to that. Now let's keep on breaking it down. And just for the record, I know, we're at Walmart and there's not always going to be the best energy drink selections that are going to fit like a, fasting lifestyle. I went ahead, I threw a link down below in the description for something called Thrive Market. Thrive Market, you can sort by keto, you can sort by different diet category, and they do have beverages. They do have like sweeteners that you can add that are going to be keto friendly or keto approved or fasting friendly. Okay, so I would recommend you check them out, an online membership-based grocery store. So that way, in addition to sweeteners or in addition to energy beverages, things like that, you can get stuff delivered to your doorstep in terms of your pantry staples, everything like that. It just makes a lot of sense if you're trying to just assume a healthier lifestyle, but you don't really know what to shop for because you can sort and everything like that. Plus, I've also listed like some of my recommended favorites with Thrive Market. So anyway, online membership-based grocery store. That link's going to save you 25% off of a membership, plus get you a free gift when you do use that link. So check them out down below. They're a big supporter of this channel too. So thank you, Thrive. Okay, so what else can we find here we need to really discuss when it comes down to, it's interesting because when you look at Bang, they have a lot of these. Now this has EAAs, so we have to disregard that part altogether. You see some energy drinks contain creatine. And you might be thinking, I don't really want creatine. Isn't creatine for my muscles? I mean, I don't really care. But the reality is that creatine, especially when fasting, can be super effective for the brain. The brain needs what's called ATP to produce energy, okay, or to give us the effective energy. And in this case, creatine helps with that. So it's okay to see creatine. Creatine also does not break a fast because it does not cause any kind of insulin spike. Okay, it is totally good to go. So when you're looking at energy drinks and you see creatine in there, don't be afraid of that. So you see, even if we go down to the rock stars, it's like they all have these BCAAs in there. It just became a thing a little while back. Let's look at this one. 300 milligrams, see BCAAs again, but it still brings up something, electrolytes. Should we be concerned about electrolytes? So in this case, the electrolytes are coming from forms of magnesium lactate, potassium, well that's sorbate, that's more of a preservative. Potassium citrate is the actual electrolyte here. So when you're reading an ingredient label on a energy drink, potassium sorbate is going to be the preservative. Anything that's like potassium citrate is going to be potassium in a mineral form. Now, here, of course, we have the leucine, isoleucine, valine, all that stuff. Leucine's really high up on this one. Coenzyme Q10 will not break a fast. I'd be okay with that. Cyanocobalamin will not break a fast. But the question here is, are the electrolytes going to break a fast? No, they are absolutely not. The electrolytes are fine. If anything, it's one of the most beneficial things you could have during a fast. The question that comes to mind is, do the natural flavors within that break a fast? Sometimes you could argue yes, but generally I do not want you to freak out about natural flavors. If you are fasting and just trying to consume water and keep it super, super clean, I get it. Then keep everything out. But a little bit of natural flavor generally isn't going to be a huge issue. The problem we face with natural flavors, there's just so much discrepancy between what is a good natural flavor, what is a bad natural flavor, and we don't always know the details. I want to find one that has aspartame because I just want to be able to point that out. But most of them are using sucralose now. Oh, this one's got sugar in it, so that one is completely, what's this one? It's a Rockstar Pure Zero. This is B vitamins. Great question here. Because people ask a lot, do B vitamins break a fast? Again, disregarding sort of the brand here, let's see what we got here. Okay, so in this case, once again, we have acesulfame potassium, which is a bummer. But we also have sodium benzoate. This is definitely something that you want to avoid. When you see sodium benzoate, that is one of the worst preservatives. It actually can mess up your leptin levels. It messes up your leptin signaling. Leptin is where the fat tissue, the signal your fat tissue sends to the brain in an effort to rev up the metabolism. You can impair leptin signaling with sodium benzoate. One of the worst things that you could possibly have if you are trying to fast for weight loss. So B vitamins, however, are fine. I don't see any issue with B vitamins. They are in fact going to be something that you can supplement during a fast with because you become deficient in B vitamins because they're so water soluble. Your body just excretes the water soluble vitamins very fast. Okay, so be very careful with that. And I mean, full disclaimer, I don't know if we're gonna find a specific brand that you can have here. At the end of the day, aspartame, the other sweetener, is also okay. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to see aspartame coupled with acesulfame potassium. Sucralose and acesulfame potassium is a relatively new thing. Let's take a look at Red Bull. Sugar-free Red Bull. I've really been into that F1 series lately on Netflix. And those F1, Red Bull guy. This is extra shiny, so this one might be hard to get. Okay, so we have natural artificial flavors, sure, magnesium carbonate, caffeine, aspartame, and then acesulfame K. Okay, so we do have it, but in this case, it's aspartame versus acesulfame. It begs the question, what is better? So essentially, this technically wouldn't be good to break a fast or have a fast during a fast, but then what's better, aspartame or sucralose? It's a tough one because sucralose has less data on it now, but sucralose is very clear to have a disruption of the gut microbiome, although lots of things that we touch and consume can affect the microbiome. Aspartame is a problem because of one of the aminos in it, phenylalanine. When you consume a lot of phenylalanine, it can affect your brain concentrations of phenylalanine because it crosses through the blood-brain barrier. So if you suffer from cravings, phenylalanine is going to mess you up more and probably give you more cravings. If you suffer from gut dysbiosis, sucralose is going to mess you up more. So that's your criteria though. If you're concerned more about your gut and your microbiome, stay away from sucralose. If you're concerned more about your brain, stay away from aspartame. And then let's take a look, let's see here. Anything else here? Oh, here we go. We got C4. What's this? Sour Patch? Carnosine. Carbonated water. Beta-alanine. That's a nice one. I like beta-alanine in there. So if you ever see, it's got acesulfame and potassium. It doesn't look like we're ever going to avoid that in most energy drinks. So I guess just take it with a grain of salt, right? But beta-alanine, that is a good piece I would like to have in there. I don't mind that amino. And the reason that I like that one is because that one is at least going to give you, it buffers lactate, it buffers lactic acid a little bit. So it helps you perform a little bit better. So it's kind of interesting if you're going in for a workout and you're fasted, I would be okay with something like beta-alanine. A lot of times I tell people make your own energy drink. Take some carbonated water, take a little bit of lemon juice, take a little bit of beta-alanine that you get on Amazon, and some caffeine, right? It's that simple. But we do see one big thing here. We see that potassium sorbate again. So if you had to choose, okay, I would rather you take a little bit of acesulfame potassium than have potassium sorbate in there. But potassium sorbate isn't that bad compared to sodium benzoate. So it's just like we have all these different preservatives, and I sound like just a negative Nelly, but I want to be able to give you every bit of information that you can look at. I would rather see potassium sorbate than sodium benzoate. Let's see here, what else we got? I guess the question that's going to come to mind for people, like, do we see any that's more of like a natural energy drink that's maybe sweetened with stevia or something like that? I don't see it. What's this? Still acesulfame and potassium. You really want to avoid the colorings too. Say those are not good at all. This also has sucrose acetate isobutyrate, which is very odd. Stevia and monk fruit. Let's just touch on that since there's nothing here. Stevia is going to be much better during a fast than monk fruit for most people. I still think monk fruit is fine. Okay, totally good to go. Some populations have an insulin spike from monk fruit. When I wear a continuous glucose monitor, I can see my blood glucose drop a little bit when I have monk fruit. The reason is because monk fruit is clearly causing a little bit of an insulin spike, which is allowing the glucose in my bloodstream to get into the cell, therefore dropping it in my blood. So I can recognize that when I wear a continuous glucose monitor. Stevia doesn't seem to do that. However, many other people that I know have their monk fruit and don't have an issue with it. I prefer monk fruit over stevia, generally speaking, but you need to kind of test yourself, and I think stevia is generally a safer bet. Okay, so we have a couple of different things. I don't want to like focus on brand too much. This is one that claims to be a naturally favored Energist Recover clean energy drink. It's called a Kill Cliff. Let's see, no sugar. Carbonated water, erythritol, better, a vitamin and plant extract blend, taurine, glucuronolactone, sodium citrate, ginger root extract, monopotassium phosphate, green tea extract, inositol, ginseng root, vitamin, hey, what do you know? Protease, invertase, beta-glucanase, stevia, yep. Okay, I mean, again, I don't want to even shout out brands per se, but this is one that is okay? And let me break down why. Okay, in this case, we have no amino acids other than like taurine. The preservatives are sodium citrate, monopotassium phosphate, totally good to go. Green tea extract as the caffeine source, ginseng root as sort of a supplemental energy source, additional caffeine, the B vitamins, citric acid enzyme blend with bromelain, lipase, all these things to help digestion, but you're fasting, so who cares? And then we have stevia, it does have a little bit of erythritol in there, which again is going to technically count as a carbohydrate. So that can be frustrating if you're fasting. But I'd say if you can, whenever possible, I would not have erythritol because it's technically a sugar alcohol during a fast. Erythritol is fine, but during a fast, although it's technically not going to break a fast, the sugar alcohol effect might disrupt your gut. There's one other one that says ingredients don't suck. Oh, it's another kill cliff, never mind. It's just the Ignite, so I'm going to guess it just has higher caffeine content. So still erythritol. So I'd say if this would be a 10 out of 10 if it did not have the erythritol in there, just to give you an idea of what kind of things you want to be looking at. Okay, and then we have just one more thing. This is low calorie, so I'm gonna, yeah, this is definitely gonna break a fast. Arginine, and it's got leucine in it, so let's forget that. What's Focus Aid? 40 calories. I mean, rule number one is if your energy drink's going to have more than 10 calories, you need to ditch it. It's not gonna work. So that's a simple one for you. And then everything else, I think you've got the gist of it. So as always, keep it locked in here on my channel. Hopefully you can find some energy drinks that work for you, or you just make your own. As always, I'll see you tomorrow.